How hard is it for everyone everywhere to come together and pray? Welcome to Life is One Day at a Time.com. I'm Minister Chestnut, and thank you for joining me again on another day of life and another day of love to live in His riches and glory. But first, I'd like to wish you grace, mercy, and peace. 2022, that's all we're going for. Grace, mercy, and peace. Hey, that will round out any day. Hey, because this is the day that the Lord has made, and we should rejoice and be glad within it. As we continue in the book of Matthew, Jesus is talking to his disciples, telling them what's going to happen, and he's going to tell it to them again very clearly this time as we continue in chapter 26 of Matthew's Gospel. And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished these sayings, he said to his disciples, he's getting ready to tell them again, "You know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified." He told them again what was going to happen. Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Cephas, and consulted that they might take Jesus by subtlety and kill him. They want to kind of take him on the side, They don't want a whole lot of people to know about it, but they're going to, plan to take him and to kill him. Verse 5. But they said, "Not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar among the people." See, they still have a little concern about the people, what they might say. Verse 6. Now when Jesus was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, there came to him a woman having an alabaster box of a very precious anointment, and poured it on his head as he sat at meat. But when the disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, "To what purpose is this waste?" They thought she was just wasting them. I mean, that was some precious oil. They could have sold it for a lot of money. For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. Now, you know who probably said that. It was probably Judas. Verse 10. When Jesus understood it, he said to them, "Why trouble ye the woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me you have not always." He said, hey, the poor, you're going to always have the poor, but I'm not going to be with you, so let her do her thing. Verse 12. For in that she had poured this ointment upon my body, she did it for my burial. Verily I say unto you, wherever soever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this that this woman have done be told for a memorial of her. See, there's a reason for everything that happens. Verse 14. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went into the chief priests and said unto them, What will you give me that I will deliver him unto you? And they covenant with him for 30 pieces of silver. And from that time he sought opportunity to betray him. Now you see, these 30 pieces of silver has a significance because it was quoted by either the prophet Jeremiah or Zacharias. Verse 17. Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread of the disciples came to Jesus, saying to him, Where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And he said, Go into the city to such a man and say to him, The master said, My time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed them, and they made ready the Passover. I mean, all Jesus had to do was speak a word, and it happened. Verse 20. Now when eve was come, he sat down with the 12. This is the Passover, just before the Passover. And they did eat, and said, Verily I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me. And they were exceedingly sorrowful, and began every one of them to say to him, Lord, is it I? And he answered and said, He that dippeth his hand with me in the dish is the same shall betray me. He's telling them exactly what's going down. Verse 24. The Son of Man goeth as is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. For it had been good for that man had he had not been born. He's talking about Judas. Verse 25. Then Judas, which betrayed him, answered and said, Master, is it I? And he said unto him, Thou hast said it. He said, Hey, you said it. It was him. The words came out of his mouth. Verse 26. And as they were eating, Jesus took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, Take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, Drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remissions of sin. So that's why that blood is so powerful. Verse 29. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out unto the Mount of Olives. Now this is the beginning of the agony in the garden. Verse 30. And when they, verse 31. Then said Jesus unto them, All ye shall be offended because of me this night. For it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. But after I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee. Now let's put a pin in this right here for a second right here. He said, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. Now, when it's written is that the shepherd will be smitten and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. But here, Jesus said, I will smite the shepherd. He's owning it. He's owning the prophecy that was spoken by Jeremiah or Zacharias. It's more Jeremiah. It was spoken. It wasn't really written. It was spoken. Now, verse 33. Peter answered and said unto him, though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet I never will be offended. Verse 34. And Jesus said unto him, verily I say unto thee, that this night before the cock crow thou shalt deny me thrice, or 3 times. Peter said unto him, though I should die with thee, yet I will not deny thee. Likewise also said all the disciples. Now, this is just when Judas and his henchmen is about to show up. Verse 36. Then come Jesus with them into the place called Gethsemane, and said unto the disciples, sit here ye while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Peter, 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. I mean, he had a lot of weight on his mind because he was of what he had to do. Verse 38. Then he said unto them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry here and watch with me. Now, this is what we all should be doing. Praying and watching the signs of the times. You got to know the signs of the times, or you're going to be lost in the shuffle. Verse 39. And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. He said, hey, if there was any other way that we could do this, hey, let's do it. But nevertheless, as you will, it will be done. Verse 40. And he cometh to the disciples and findeth them asleep, and said unto Peter, what, could ye not watch with me 1 hour? Now that 1 hour, it's kind of an arbitrary time for prayer. I mean, if you can spend 1 hour praying every day, I mean, that would be great. But most people don't have that kind of time. But as a standard, 1 hour, hey, got to get it in. 41. Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak. I mean, you can have all high hopes in spirit, but this flesh is weak. He's telling you right off the top. He knows what's going on. God with us. Man, God in the flesh. I mean, he did it for a reason. To show us what to do and how to handle it. Verse 42. He went away again the second time and prayed, O Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done. And he came out and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them and went away again and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Then cometh he to his disciples and said unto them, sleep on now, take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. This is when Judas and the priests and the scribe's henchman is about to show up. Rise, let us be going. Behold, he is at hand that does betray me. And while he yet spake, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him great multitude with swords and staves from the chief priests and the elders of the people. See, they slipped in at night, going to take Jesus so the people wouldn't be, aware of it. Verse 48. Now he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, the same is he, hold him fast. And forthwith he came to Jesus and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. Dirty, rotten, I would say something else, but hey, you know what I'm thinking. And Jesus said unto him, Friend, wherefore art thou come? Then came they and laid hands on Jesus and took him. And behold, one of them which were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck a servant of the high priest and smote off his ear. This was probably Peter. And he was a good swordsman. He just took his ear off. Then said Jesus unto him, Put up again thy sword into its place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled, that thus it must be? So he's telling them, hey, this has got to happen. Verse 55. In that same hour, Jesus came to the multitudes. Are ye come out as against me as a thief with swords and staves for to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temple, and ye laid no hold on me. But all this was done that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. The sheep were scattered. He told them what was going to happen. Verse 57. And they that had laid on him, Jesus, led him away to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. But Peter followed him afar off until the high priest's palace, and went in and sat with the servants to see the end. See, Peter, he wanted to see what was going to happen. 59. Now the chief priests and the elders and all the council sought false witnesses against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. At last came 2 false witnesses and said, This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days. See, he wasn't talking about the temple made with bricks. He was talking about his body. Verse 62. And the high priest arose and said unto him, Answer thou nothing? What is it that these 2 witnesses against thee? But Jesus held his peace. And the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjourn thee by the living God that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. And Jesus said unto them, Thou hast said it. Nevertheless, I say unto you, hereafter shall you see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, Thou hast spoken blasphemy. What further need we of witnesses? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? And they answered and said, He is guilty of death. And they did spit in his face and buffeted him, and others smote him with the palms of their hands. I mean, they were slapping him up, beating him up pretty bad. But he didn't say nothing. He held his peace. Let's go back to verse 67. And they did spit in his face. They buffeted him, and others smote him with the palms of their hands, saying, Prophesy unto us, thou Christ. Who is he that smote thee? Now Peter sat without in the palace, and a damsel came unto him, saying, Thou wast with Jesus of Galilee? But he denied before them all, saying, I know not what thou sayest. Verse 71, that was once. And when he was gone out into the porch, another maid saw him and said unto them that were there, This fellow was also with Jesus of Nazareth. And again he denied with an oath, I do not know the man. That's twice. And then after a while came to him, they stood by him and said to Peter, Surely thou also art one of them, for thy speech betrayeth thee. And he began to curse and to swear, saying, I know not the man. See, that's 3 times he denied Jesus. And immediately the cock crew. And Peter remembered the words of Jesus, which said unto him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And he went out and wept bitterly. I mean, that hurt him to his heart, that he denied Christ 3 times. But Jesus told him that he was going to do it. And he said he wasn't going to do it, but he did it. I mean, think about yourself. I think about myself. There are times when I said to myself, hey, I'm going to do this or that, and next thing you know, I didn't do this or that. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Thanks for joining me again on another day of life and another day of love. The living is riches and glory. And remember, this is a day that the Lord has made, and we should rejoice and be glad within it.
For the glory, up, for the glory, up, for the glory, up, for the glory. How hard is it for everyone everywhere to come together and pray? Stop, take a minute, pray, rejoice. Don't forget, Life is One Day at a Time.com comes on every week with Minister Chestnut, live and in living color. So be there every week, because Jesus is our rock.